Hugh Jackman, Zendaya,
Right.
Zac Efron,
Wow.
the director Michael Gracie, and Kiala Settle. So it's 5 people that I'm interviewing one after another. The worst thing happens, I forgot my flight.
No.
I called my producer and I was like, get me on a flight now. I need to be in Sydney now. I got on a flight. I reached the hotel 3 hours before the interview. No sleep. So I went in and I did the interview and it became my most watched interview. 1 million views on YouTube. And everyone always remembers this interview, but no one knows what happened behind the scenes.
Hello and welcome to the Dreamcatchers Show Season 2, where we capture inspiring stories one dream at a time. Hosted by yours truly, Shalima Motial. Associate sponsor, Ritika, your health coach. Media partners, Crazy Talk. Makeup partners, La Roche Salon. Today we have with us a very exciting personality on the show. It brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. I am super proud of this person. He's a rock star. He's an amazing human being, and you'll know him, you've heard him, you've seen him all over the place. He is none other than Joshua Simon. He's a DJ at Kiss 92 FM. He's not only a radio presenter, singer-songwriter, podcaster, and LGBTQ advocate as well. He was one of 17 artists from around the world who sang on 20th Century Fox's official YouTuber's cover of the song This Is Me from the movie The Greatest Showman, recorded at Abbey Road Studios in London. Similar collaboration with 20th Century Fox, where Joshua represented Singapore in a Queen medley recorded at Metropolis Studio, London, in a marketing effort for Bohemian Rhapsody. Wait, there's more. Joshua also released his debut album, Filthy. The 10-track record has been streamed over 150,000 times on Spotify and was hailed by local music publication Bandwagon Asia as one of the best to come out of Singapore. Amazing achievements, aren't they? However, the thing I'm getting most nostalgic about is that 14 years back when we launched Dreamcatchers, there was a bright guy who came and helped us make our intro video. And that was none other than Joshua Simon. So please help me welcome Joshua Simon.
You're very kind, very sweet.
Aww.
And I was picturing that as I was coming to do this, how I was 21. I was 21 years old.
Right.
This was my first job, and you guys hired me to do the promo video for
Yes.
Dreamcatchers. And it was also my first paycheck. Did I ever tell you what I spent that first paycheck on?
No.
My parents took the money.
Aw, but that's so sweet.
They took, yeah, I knew my first paycheck had to go to my parents. So I gave them everything that you guys gave me for that first paycheck. So,
Right. Oh,
yeah.
that's adorable. Thank you so much for sharing that. We are so happy to have you here, Joshua.
of course.
So tell me, how did your journey start?
How did it start? Wow. I didn't study radio. I studied film, right? So I helped you to do your video. So I went to film school. Even my army life was film related. I was in the film unit. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be behind the camera. I might be writing, directing. I loved editing. That was the thing that I loved about it. But I was also doing a lot of YouTube videos. It was like back in the early YouTube days.
Right.
So I was putting out all these remixes and covers, and I was singing a lot. And my teacher from school, from Nian, because I was in the campus radio station, right? And he saw something in me.
Right.
So even though I was going in the film direction, he called me up and he said, like, don't give up on radio. I think you have something with your voice. He said, use your voice. So I gave it a shot. I sent in a demo, just a recording of myself pretending to be a radio DJ. I never grew up listening to a lot of radio. I never dreamt of being a radio DJ. So I sent that over and I got hired. And it's been 14 years.
Doing that with
Yeah.
different stations though, right?
Yeah, within Singapore Press Holdings itself.
Right.
But it has been this cross-section of film and music and all the things that I had already loved.
Right.
But radio was sort of that cross-section for all of that coming through.
Right. And you said you're more keen on the editing aspect,
Yeah.
but do you direct as well?
I want to direct. I was offered something to direct, but it was way too ambitious and it was way too big a project. I like editing because it's quiet. I get to just sit in front of my computer, I have a good cup of coffee, and I just build. You know, it's
Right.
like building Lego blocks, right?
Right.
So that's the aspect that I love about editing, and it's so calm and quiet. I don't have to use my voice. I don't have to meet anyone. So I'm actually secretly quite an introvert, even though it seems like I have a very extroverted lifestyle, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so being a radio jockey or radio presenter, you're meeting a lot of people, you're interviewing them. So of course, everyone feels you're so extroverted. It's so easy for you to talk to people, right? So why don't you share with our listeners 2 or 3 challenges that you faced and how did you overcome those challenges?
This is a great question. I love films, right? So the moment there was the opportunity to meet a celebrity that I've idolized for many, many years, I was over the moon. I was like, please, please, I have to do this. I have to do the interview. And then they're okay, you're going to do the interview. But then I'll be like, how do I do an interview? But I grew up watching Oprah. I grew up listening to Howard Stern. I grew up with all these talk show hosts. And I thought, okay, then I'm going to pretend I'm Barbara Walters. I'm going to pretend I am Oprah. What would Oprah ask? So it took a lot of me almost pretending or acting and spending a great deal of time honing that craft. So that journey has been very, very exciting. Like I've always said, I loved all these things, but I didn't know how to do all of them at once. And somehow life decided radio would be that. Radio is the oldest form of communication, and it's still very much present. And it hits every demographic, and you never know who's listening. And I think that's the great deal of respect that I've started to have for radio, right? I would get people texting in saying they're listening from a hospital. It's a nurse between breaks and she's having a tough day and she's just listening to the radio. You have a CEO in a car who just happens to be listening, driving to a very important meeting, and they're listening to the radio. So I think the challenge has been trying to talk to everyone and trying to find something to connect and unite all these different demographics of people, right? Because I feel like with social media, you get a very clear, like, this is my audience, this is who I'm speaking to, their age between 13 to whatever, right? But with radio, you're talking to 13 and 35 and also 85.
Yeah, right. So share with us the moments that you're on air and it's been like really challenging and you're like, okay, what was I supposed to do next? And you've gone blank. Has that happened?
All the time, all the time. But I think the challenge that I face the most with radio is I'm a human, right? I'm a person. Like I go through things in life. Sometimes I'm sad. Sometimes I'm not so happy. Sometimes I'm super joyful, and I just want to tell everyone everything that I'm going through. And I always have to remind myself that okay, it's like going up on stage, right? You have to pull yourself together. So there are times where I've had like a bad breakup, or I'm struggling with anxiety or depression, and there are times to talk about it. And when I do want to talk about it from a vulnerable space, I also prefer to have an expert to balance things out, to help the audience also better understand it. I don't want to just be sad person on radio, right? So I'm very, very careful about how that is presented. And I always tell myself, I can be having a tough day, but someone could be having a tougher day. And this is the opportunity to try to lift them up a little bit rather than just using my sadness or my brokenness as an excuse to not entertain. So that is the challenge, because it takes a lot of work, and that happens in the quiet. That happens when no one is looking. So that's the challenge that I'm sure any actor, anyone who's had to be in front of the camera would have to also.
Very nice. Very nicely put.
Thank you.
So tell me something. What are the moments that you're most proud of?
Wow. I have a good story.
Sure.
I have a very good story. I had my first ever press conference that I was invited to. And a press conference is nothing fancy. It's quite a bloodbath, right? You've got hundreds of journalists. Everyone is in one big ballroom and there are celebrities on stage. And everyone's fighting for a chance to ask a question. This was very early on in my radio career. I was just happy to be in the room. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's Hugh Jackman. Peter Dinklage is there. Fan Bingbing is there. And this is for an X-Men movie. I knew that as Asians, we're very scared to raise your hand. I'm very scared as well. But I was like, I have to ask the first question, because if I don't ask the first question, I probably won't get a chance again. So the moment he said questions from the audience, I just put my hand up.
Wow.
I just shot it up so to make sure that everyone can see me. And he let me ask that first question. And it was a joke question. I meant it as a joke. I was like, Hugh Jackman, you're very cool, but like I want to speak to Wolverine because I'm a fan. So can you go away for a while? I want to speak to Wolverine. And he was so game. He got into the role right there. And he started making fun. I used to have big hair. So he started making fun of my hair. And then he said, go backstage with me now, I'll beat you up. And then all the journalists were so nervous, like, what's going on, right? And I was like, did I offend him? And then he got up and he said, backstage now. And then everyone's like, go, 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 go. I'm like, what's happening? So I ran backstage. And then he tapped me on the shoulder and said, okay, let's give them a good show. He said, I'm going to pour water on your hair. I'm going to drag you out.
No.
And I'll make it look like I beat you up. So he grabbed me and I was just like being dragged out. And then it ended up on the front page of the newspaper back then. And then everyone remembered that incident, right? And it's so strange for a journalist to be reported about. Usually I'm reporting about them. And then the following year, he did Logan, which was his final Wolverine film. So he called me back to interview him in Taiwan. And then the following year was for The Greatest Showman. So he said, okay, we're gonna get all these singers from all around the world, from Singapore, from Puerto Rico, from LA, from New York, and everyone's gonna come together and we're gonna sing this song called This Is Me. So I just knew we were at Abbey Road and I had the song sheet in front of me and I had to learn the song in 1 hour.
Whoa.
In front of other singers from around the world who are far more famous than me, and with Hugh Jackman and the original singer, and I had to learn on the go. So I did it, recorded the song, and the film was ready to come out. But he said, we gotta do one more interview in Sydney.
Okay.
The worst thing happens. The worst thing happens. I forgot my flight.
No.
I missed my flight.
Oh no.
I called my producer and I was like, get me on a flight now. Whatever flight you can find. I don't care what, I need to be in Sydney now. I got on a flight. I reached the hotel 3 hours before the interview. No sleep. All that turmoil, that chaos, I had to let it go. And on the flight there, I was preparing my questions because it was Hugh Jackman, Zendaya, Zac Efron,
wow,
the director Michael Gracie, he's got a new film out, Better Man, the Robbie Williams story, and Keala Settle, who's the singer of This Is Me. So it's 5 people that I'm interviewing one after another. I have to be able to do it with no sleep after all the chaos. So I went in and I did the interview and it became my most watched interview. It crossed, I think, 1 million views on YouTube or 1.5 million. Wow. And everyone always remembers this interview. They always bring it up saying it's your best interview. It's one of the best interviews. But no one knows what happened behind the scenes.
Right. Just because you raised your hand the first time, you got noticed out of this whole big crowd. Yeah. And that's how you got one opportunity after the other, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I teach at Neon, I teach at SMU. And anytime people ask me, like, what is the secret? I say, you just have to raise your hand.
Beautiful.
Raise your hand, command your feet forward.
How do you define success?
I've had a video that passed, I think, 10 million views. I don't see that as success because there are a lot of great interviews that I'm proud of that no one watched. I interviewed ABBA.
Okay.
Right? Not many people in my generation listen to ABBA.
Right.
But it means so much to me because I grew up listening to ABBA. My mom listens to Dancing Queen and Super Trooper and Mamma Mia. I grew up with that. So when I got a chance to interview ABBA, it was not a very popular video of mine. But that's an example of an interview that I was very proud of. Right. On a personal level, that I got to speak to two masters of their craft.
Right.
And they enjoyed the interview. So that to me is success. You know, like there's something that I'm proud of that many people may not be able to quantify
Right.
or understand, but I'm very proud of it. I've also been very proud of an interview that I did with a hawker. That's it. It was just a lady across the street who sold bak chor mee, but keto version. So
Okay.
if you're diabetic or you can't eat bread or carbs or noodles, she has 0 carbs, 0 calories noodles.
How did you find her?
Just across the street. I was just ordering lunch and then I saw it was this woman who was selling keto bak chor mee, and like, that's the strangest thing.
Right.
And I invited her on the show and it was such a good interview. So it doesn't matter whether or not they're a mega celebrity or they're someone who's just putting food on the table, but they've got a creative spin to it.
Right.
I find both very, very captivating and compelling.
Right. Okay. So tell me, Joshua, what role do you hope to play in Singapore's LGBTQ community, and how do you hope to effect change in that aspect?
I had a moment where I spoke to our now President Daman, and it was a gathering, a private gathering of entrepreneurs, media personalities, some philanthropists as well. And to his credit, he said, ask anything you want. And I did. I asked about what the quality of life is going to be like for LGBT people in Singapore,
Right.
whether or not that will change, right? I can't give you the full answer of what he said, but that is the role that I've played in terms of activism. Like, I will be
Right.
the person in the room that I won't aggressively challenge you, but I will ask questions, right?
Right.
Like, I will simply ask questions and I will bring attention to areas that we may overlook. I've played that same role even within the radio station as well, where
Right.
I ask, do we use they, them pronouns for Sam Smith because they use they, them pronouns?
Right.
Your perspectives may be different, but you are playing their music.
Right.
So something's got to give. Do we respect that person's decision or do we go against that person's decision? Just asking, right? So that is the role that I play in terms of activism. In terms of where my heart is for LGBT people in Singapore, it's got to be with the culture, I would say. I think the people, that's the part that I feel is often overlooked when we discuss the LGBT community in Southeast Asia itself, right? We think a lot about marriage and our political opinions. We think about how conservative we are. We think of religion and what we have been taught. We rarely talk about the people.
Right.
And the people have been here from the very start. And they are our friends, they are our uncles, they are our aunties, they are our kids. And we forget that they are our friends. They are people that we work with. Whenever you talk about LGBT people, 377A, it is criminal to have sex with men. It is a very carnal view
Right.
of LGBT people. It's a very sometimes vulgar, promiscuous view of it.
Right.
And Asians already, we have such a poor, conservative view to sex itself. So when you discuss gay people, you think about sex immediately. I don't think about that. I think about the butterflies in my stomach. I think about the excitement of meeting someone. I think about what it's like to fit in and find your own people. I think about being fabulous. I think about, doing things a little bit differently, thinking differently, loving differently. And those are the things that I don't see being discussed a lot about. And my heart for my community is making sure that there are healthy, safe social spaces.
Right. And do you see very rampantly a lot of loss of empathy for LGBTQ?
Yeah.
You feel that as well?
Yeah, because when people talk about gay people, they immediately think about their perspective, their own
Right.
perspective.
Right.
But I think we keep forgetting that we're discussing another human's life. And we're so afraid of the other. We're so afraid of someone who's different from us
Right.
that we immediately think about our opinion rather than actually asking them how life is like for them. There was one time I brought up a question about the treatment of LGBTQ people in an organization. And I asked if we're going to do anything to make sure that they're safe in this place. And the immediate response was, I think everything's okay. That has always been sort of the response, is the assumption that everyone is okay because everyone is the same. And I'm just the person in the room to remind people that it's not the case.
For me, I feel, it's bottom line is love. Love is not always gender-based. There's love between two friends who are the same gender as well. So why can't there be love? Love has different names to it.
Yeah.
And that acceptance, that needs to come about. How long do you think it'll take for the society to accept?
I think it will take a while, but I also understand why Singapore is the way it is and how conservative it is as well. I think Singapore moves in a very, very delicate, careful manner to make sure that everyone is okay.
Right.
But I just feel my only criticism is that no one is checking in on the LGBTQ community, whether or not they're okay.
They're okay.
I try not to focus too much on things I cannot control.
Right.
The things that I can control is what I said about culture and making sure there's enough safe social spaces
Right.
for LGBT people. A lot of times, I've noticed when reflecting on my own journey and speaking to people is that the moment they are gay or they're in the closet, the first thing they go to is pornography or clubs, bars, alcoholism. And these are things that can lead you down a very dark path.
Right.
So that is where I feel maybe we can do something. Maybe we can be gay, but we don't have to go to a club.
Right.
Maybe we can go play sports together. Maybe we can meditate together. Maybe we can journal together. Maybe we can run a business together. And we're starting to see more and more of these pockets around. There are little social groups where queer people come and they play video games.
Right.
Everyone brings food. And that is a very different environment compared to when I was 21 years old and I went straight to a club. And I had to figure out how to love from that.
If society was accepting, you would have probably reacted differently. And if it's normalized, then everybody's having an open conversation.
Exactly.
And that's what I think we're all looking forward to. So what is your vision professionally in this arena and otherwise for your life?
I just want to play a role. That is my prayer. I always pray that same thing, which is just use me, let me play a role.
Beautiful.
Give me a role. Because I know my limits. I know myself as a human. I know where I fall short. I know what I'm good at, and I know all the things I'm not good at. And if I spend too much time thinking about it, I'll be too scared to do anything. So give me a role. Give me something to do. Make use of me. And it's the approach that I have in radio. It is the approach I have in podcasts with an LGBT activism as well. Every time I hit a roadblock and I don't know what to do, I'm like, just give me a role. I need to feel like I'm doing something. I don't want to sit it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. This actually gets me excited to talk to you about what spiritual path do you follow? Because this is like, asking God to use you as an instrument to fulfill whatever your life's purpose is.
Yeah. I'm a Christian.
Right.
I'm a very proud Christian. My dad is a pastor.
Oh, beautiful.
In a Bible Presbyterian church. It's a very, very strict Old Testament. Everyone uses hymn booklets and organ and piano. And so that was my upbringing, a lot of chamber music.
Right.
And I used to be at war with that aspect of religion. I always wanted to challenge it, not even with being gay, but just wanting to go into the media industry, wanting to go into film and music. All that was viewed as like sort of terrain of sin. It's like, don't go into these.
Right.
Yeah, like these are industries that will suck you in and spit you out. And it's a godless industry. That was what I was always told. But the more and more I was drawn to it, I feel like the more and more distant I was with my parents as well, where they thought I was going to return like the prodigal son, begging. Like I went and tried to pursue these dreams and they're bad dreams, and now I will come home now and be a lawyer. It never happened. And I think in the past couple of years, I've really started to embrace my Christianity.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I always thought I had to choose being gay or being in the media versus being Christian. But yeah, I have resolved that, I feel.
Right. That's nice. So what's your advice for marginalized communities and their advocates?
There's no utopia where every day is just beautiful and stunning. That would be heaven.
Right.
Right? Things happen, but now more than ever, we benefit from all the work of all our ancestors, all the activists through the years, right? Being able to turn on Netflix right now and watch Drag Race was something that was unheard of even for me 10 years ago, where I had to go to Malaysia and buy a DVD and then bring it back and sneak it back just to be able to see people who are like me. Now it's one click away.
Right.
If you're looking for positive, wholesome content to better understand your health, your mental health, your sexual health, you can do that just from a Google search.
Right.
You can ask someone. There are platforms where all this is available. So even though tough things keep happening, we have all these incredible opportunities right now to have a good life.
Beautiful.
And it is possible because of the activists from 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago. So we owe it to these people who spoke up at a time when it was much harder for them.
Right. Joshua, you've interviewed so many inspiring personalities, celebrities, top actors and everyone. What is that one underlying thing that you found in each one of them that's made them the star they are?
The ones that I've had the best feeling of like, wow, that was a good interview, right? That usually happens when the person that I'm speaking to is completely themselves. When they're not seeing it as a marketing opportunity, where they're not seeing it as a chance to clear their name because there was some controversy and they're talking to you because they want to put a statement out. But when it's a genuine conversation and they're comfortable with themselves. And that's the one thing that I've noticed. A lot of the ones that are very kind and warm to me and gracious to me, and not just to me, but to the staff, to the camera crew around, they will shake their hand, get to know them by name. You know, they are always people who have done it for a long time. So they're not blinded by the glitz and glamour anymore. They're just being themselves. Unfortunately, I've noticed a lot of the new ones, they have a lot of diva demands. But the best interviews I've done were with people who are people first. And then the celebrity and actor stuff comes in second.
Thanks for sharing. That's so basically humility, right? Warmth.
Yeah.
Lovely. And what's your vision for your career right now? You want to see yourself hosting more shows or dabbling into film production, or what is it?
I feel like I've spent so much of my life being a very ambitious person and listing out, these are all the things I want to do. And then I went out and I did it. And that was very exciting. But I also really want to just enjoy little things like I want to be a better cook.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I want to be able to cook better.
I'm ready to be your guinea pig.
Please, please. You know, I want to start to I want to be able to have friends over and I cook them a meal. And it's not all frozen stuff that I put in the air fryer. You know, like that to me sounds like such a fun skill to be able to have. I want to learn how to sew.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there are so many things. Gardening, I want to learn to do that. Also, when working in the entertainment industry, it is also a chance to be very close to art and be very close to artists that make me think, maybe I should do another song. Maybe I should write a film. Maybe I should write a book. And maybe I will do all these things.
And we wish you all the best for that.
Thank you.
Yes. So on that note, let's have a little rapid fire question answer. Okay, what's the most unusual listener request you've ever received and how did you handle it?
Oh my goodness, when Taylor Swift was in Singapore, the amount of please play this Taylor Swift song over and over and over again. And I was like, how do I, the whole radio station will just turn to Taylor Swift songs. So I unfortunately had to just choose one.
Okay. And can you share one of your most memorable interactions with a listener during a live show?
I keep going back to that nurse. She said, I'm listening to you, just taking a break. It's been a tough day as a nurse. Tough day in her industry, in healthcare, means passing, means dealing with grief, the weight of that. And for her to just text in like that, I can't shake it off. And like that was one message that stuck with me. Because sometimes, you know, you're at work, you're not working hard enough or whatever, right? Everyone is human. That message reminded me, no, people are listening in real time. Pull yourself together.
Right, that's beautiful. You've had like a crazy fan moment?
We were doing a live radio show from the furniture store, and this fan came up and just like hugged me really, really tight and said, I finally found you. Oh. And I was like, okay, I didn't appreciate the hug, but thank you so much. You know, like maybe a bit of a warning first, because I almost fell off the ground. But it was a very, very sweet moment. Yeah, I think that was probably the nicest one, because it just caught me off guard. And I thought that was the sweetest thing
I'm sure. No, I remember once we were driving past and there were those screens, right? So they were playing, oh, the next show coming up, and then I saw yours and I suddenly screamed. I said, oh, look, that's Joshua, So it almost seemed like, oh, this is our Joshua. So that felt so good, just seeing your face there on that big screen, and this is someone you've known. And you've been so kind to us throughout these 14 years. I remember you left such a beautiful wish for us on our 10th anniversary when Dreamcatchers turned 10. And it was like a nice, good 3-4 minutes long. And I said, oh, he could have just said all the best wishes. But you recounted everything. And it was just so beautiful.
It will stay with me for the rest of my life. Because I remember what it was like. Because the reality is, I had just left Army.
Right.
And I was looking at the world like anyone would at 21, like, oh, all these possibilities. But then it started to sink in, like, can I get a job? Can I find a job? Can anyone hire me? Like, what's going to happen? And then you guys took a chance on me. And I remember working very hard on it because it was like, that was my first time to do something and to earn money. And I had never seen that amount of money in my life. I can remember it was a check. And I was so excited, and I had to ask everyone, like, what do I do with the check?
Aww.
Like, where do I put the check? So I remember I was so excited, and then when the money came in, I was like, I'm gonna give it to my mom and dad, So I did,
Yeah, that's so sweet. Okay, which is the composition that you like the most?
There was a song that I did called All I Wanna Do, which came out during the pandemic.
Okay.
And the song is very, very colorful, but what I'm actually saying in the song is I wanna disappear. Because I was going through a lot with my mental health at that time, and it was the pandemic.
Right.
And I felt there was this article that came out on the Straits Times that said that artists are like the lowest priority in the world during the pandemic.
I remember reading that.
Yeah,
too.
It was a very controversial article, but there was a level of truth there because everyone was trying to figure out what to do during the pandemic. And I didn't know, I was looking at my hands and like, what can these hands do at this time? Maybe I should have been a medical student, maybe I should have been a doctor. I felt like I had no purpose during that period. So I wrote that song, All I Wanna Do. And that for me was healing because like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to sing about how lost I am, and then people are going to resonate with it or not, So that probably is my favorite one, because of where it came from and in relation to what was going on in the world.
Right. And in fact, when I read that article, I was like, on the contrary, right now, the artists are the ones entertaining everyone who are locked up in their houses in the entire world.
Yeah.
We started making short films, we started doing so many TikToks, and people would write messages saying, oh, this brought a smile on my face. I was feeling so down and low because I just figured someone very close to me has COVID, this, that, but then this brought me out of that and happy after watching that. And I'm like, how are artists not so important? In fact, they're the most important after, of course, doctors and nurses and all.
Absolutely,
So,
and you're right, like TikTok blew up during that time.
Yeah, exactly.
That was why it blew up, because everyone needed to laugh. Everyone couldn't wait to go to a concert. They couldn't wait to go to a cinema and sit right next to someone.
Yeah, and Joshua, now you're a mentor as well, and you go to universities and all. So may I please request you to look directly to the viewer who's watching you right now and give your heart's message to them.
The best piece of advice I honestly can give you is to not follow anyone's advice. Like truly, like throw yourself in the deep end. Show up. Don't, like, I know what it's like to feel scared. I know what it's like to feel uncertainty, but show up anyway and try and just do it. You're meant to have your own success story. So all you can do is look at what's around you and show up for it. And if no one's giving you the opportunity, then you create the opportunity. So that's the God-honest advice I can give you, which is to not follow everyone's advice. Sift through it, use some things to motivate you, but build your own advice for yourself. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And for you who's listening to us, watching us, thank you so much for your time. I am sure you loved every bit of this interview. Stay tuned, keep watching as we keep getting inspiring personalities. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere. Dreamcatchers is everywhere. And we also hope to catch your dreams. So write into us if you want to be showcased here as well. Thank you. Signing off, Shalima Motial. Keep watching.
This makes me very nervous because I'm not used to being interviewed. I much prefer coming up with the questions. And you're doing a fantastic job, by the way. I should study your interviewing skills. There's one point where I did that and my voice was like, I am brave. And then it was so funny. And when it happened, you know, you can either feel embarrassed or you can laugh it off.
Right.
So I just laughed it off. And then everyone started laughing. And then I said, I'll do it again.